I'm Celine Williams, and welcome to the Leading Through Crisis podcast, a conversation series exploring resiliency and leadership in challenging times. My guest today is Kijuan Amey, retired Air Force veteran, Chief Motivation Officer of Amey Motivation, and author of the book, Don't Focus on Why Me, From Motorcycle Accident to Miracle. Welcome, Kijuan.
Thank you so much for having me, Celine.
I'm really interested in your story, knowing a little bit about you. But before we dive into any of that, I always start with a question. The name of the podcast is Leading Through Crisis. When you hear that phrase, what comes up for you, or what does that mean to you?
First off, I have to say, Leading Through Crisis is a great podcast name.
Thank you.
And the reason I say that is because not too many people will. They won't lead through crisis.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to lead when nothing's going on,
Mm-hmm.
or when it's just, a regular time, peacetime, as we call it in the military.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to a war or something serious, are you willing to take the reins?
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to jump out and say, I'll do it?
Mm-hmm.
And, leading in crisis, that's kind of what that means to me. It just takes me back to the military. Will you take the reins? Will you lead the troops into battle and come out victorious? So lead me into crisis, but also I want to come out victorious too.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I love that. I love that kind of analogy between the two, especially because I think most people, and I'm saying most, generalizing, let's say many people, not only will they not lead the troops, they won't even lead themselves through
yeah,
crisis.
yeah,
And if you don't start with that because you are avoiding, or you're, just let's get through to the next peacetime or whatever it is, it's not a healthy starting point for any situation or challenge that you have to deal with.
right.
Um, so I'd love to hear a little bit about your story. I know it's many layered, but you started, you mentioned the military and your intro mentions the
Mhm.
military as well. So I'm not sure if that's where you would want to start, but I'd love to hear a little bit about that, your journey to doing what you're doing today, from retired Air Force veteran to Chief Motivation Officer and
Yeah. So,
author. By the way,
you're
let's not
right,
forget
right.
author.
Can't forget that. So, just going back to right before the accident, I'll give you just a little bit of background on what I was doing.
Okay.
So, again, United States Air Force. At this time, I am a reservist. I did serve 4 years active duty, but I am a reservist, and I served all of my years, which were a decade, in at the same base.
Okay.
So, in North Carolina, at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and I was an in-flight refueling specialist. That's where you refuel planes in midair, for those who don't know.
That sounds
Uh,
scary. Just for someone who has no idea what that entails, that does sound scary.
can be,
Yeah.
very much so. There has been those times, not just what I've heard about, but what's happened to me. I've actually seen a fireball.
Yeah.
That's not good when you got a bunch of gas up there,
Nope.
okay? So,
No.
just to give you a quick rundown of like how to envision what that really means. So, you know how you're driving around down here, around town. If you need gas, you just pull up to the gas station,
Yeah.
fill her up, whatever.
Yep.
Well, in the sky, in the military, shall I say, not commercially, in the military, they have a flying gas station. And that's basically what I was. I was on a flying gas station, the KC-135 Strato tanker. And I was the guy controlling what we call the boom. And the boom was what you would use to refuel the other aircraft with, whether that was a fighter, a bomber, a cargo plane, reconnaissance plane, even another tanker that could be refueled. You were going to refuel it. They also had Navy. We
Hmm.
could refuel the Navy as well.
Wow.
The F-18s, the EA 6Bs. That's another type of reconnaissance airplane. I think the P3s, I believe are what they call. Like they got different planes that you can refuel. You can refuel a Marine plane, which is the Harrier. You can refuel them. It's so cool what we can do,
Yeah.
and just the diversity as well. But there's also not just the refueling part to that mission. I was also a cargo loader, so I
Okay.
knew how I could load cargo on my plane,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's pallets, whether it's even it could have even been like an engine, a part, anything like that. If it could fit, it was going in.
Yep.
You know, of course, you loaded passengers, but we could carry passengers, and I think we could go up to about 42 before we needed a waiver.
Wow.
42 total souls on board, I believe it is, if I'm
Hmm.
not mistaken, until we needed a waiver. But yeah, you had aero medivac, so that's where go, if you look what you go into. It doesn't always have to be a war zone, but you go into like, for example, maybe somebody got pulled out of a war zone. We go to a base that they got taken to, and we take them from that base, bringing them back to a local hospital or one of our hospitals that might have been overseas,
Right.
as close as they can get to it. And so we'll have basically a medical team, like a whole medical team on board, medical crew, and they'll have stanchions set up, they'll have stations set up, they'll have everything that needs to be there for those patients, because it's not usually just one, it's multiple usually.
Right.
And I don't really want to use the word cool because it's not cool to be
Right.
taking people that are injured, but I was loving the fact that I could help my people get back home,
Yeah.
you know.
You're
um
having a real impact on them.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not just the refueling. It's
Hmm.
not just the cargo.
Hmm.
It's a lot more to this mission. And so that was what I was doing in the Air Force. I also taught it. So I was an instructor as well.
Mm.
Um, and then as a reservist, I also would be going to school full time. So
Hmm.
I was getting my degree in computer information systems with a specialization in systems analysis and integration.
Wow. It's a
Uh,
mouthful.
fancy way to say nerd. Just that's another way of saying I love computers and
Yeah.
software. And then I also started my own business. So I was an entrepreneur as well. This is all happening at the same time, by the way.
Yeah.
And the business was called Kiwi Enterprise.
Okay.
Kiwi? Oh, I know you're probably like, what?
I was
Yeah, so
wondering.
that Kiwi was my call sign in the Air Force,
Ah,
but it was
okay.
also my nickname as a kid.
Oh,
And
cool.
I was given that nickname by my great aunt, God rest her soul. Um, she gave me that when I was a little kid, and nobody can call me like she can with that name.
Hmm.
And I miss it dearly. I really do miss her. But yeah, I wanted to keep her alive. So that's what I did. I named my business basically after her to keep her alive, but I also carried her on my chest
Yeah.
because of my name.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
so that was pretty cool too. And Kiwi Enterprise, I did website design and management, social media marketing, and photography for small businesses because a
Okay.
lot of people tend to leave out the small fish. I
Hmm.
said, okay, that's okay. I'll go collect that money.
Yeah.
Y'all can go ahead and deal with the big fish. I'll go collect the small fish money. They got money too.
Yeah.
It fills my pockets as well. So that's what I did with that.
Yeah.
But this one day, May 5th, 2017, some might call it Cinco de Mayo. I
Hmm.
call it my new life's journey
Yeah.
because that's when everything would change for me. I would be involved in a motorcycle accident that would change my whole life.
Mm.
I was going to a lake, and for those who purchase my book, you'll see on that front cover of it, it's a motorcycle. And there's also the backdrop, which is like trees and a dock and a little bit of water, a little bit of rocks. That was where I had just left from that same location that's on that cover. And just remember, just a few minutes ago, I mentioned that I did photography. The pictures on that front cover I took.
Mm.
So the picture of the motorcycle was actually my motorcycle. That's Nina. So y'all can say hi to Nina. And that lake was the lake that I was actually leaving from. And that's Jordan Lake here in North Carolina. And so that was where I used to go, to get like my meditation, my relaxation, my peace, my zen, just to be alone, be at one and just relax.
Yeah.
And so I had to work that night for the military, or actually that whole weekend. But I would hear a car go by because that where I sat was near a highway. And so I heard a car go by, and it was rare that you would hear it because of where it was. Like I'm really in the woods, like in the woods.
Right.
So um this car goes by and I'm like, oh snap, what time is it? So I look down at my watch and oh, gotta go. So I jump back on the bike, take off, and I have a Bluetooth headset capability on my helmet.
Yep.
And so I'm riding and I love to listen to music while I rode. It was so fun just to be able to listen to music while you're riding a motorcycle. At first, I didn't know if it would like impede my capabilities to react, but no, it was actually like the way they did it, you could turn the volume up and down. So it wasn't like you had to, it was blasting,
Right.
in your ears. So that was good. But I was jamming. And again, this is 2017, so for all my Bruno Mars fans, 24 Karat Magic had just came out not too long before that.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure I'm listening to that album by Bruno Mars. And as I'm riding down the street, I mean, everything was just so beautiful that day until it wasn't.
Mm.
And this is where this silver Honda Accord would pull out in front of me from an intersection.
Mm.
And as I always tell this story, I had three options. I could go right and go into the trees because there are trees all along this two-lane road, the lane that I'm in and the lane that's coming past me. So there's trees all up and down this road. So I could go right and go into the trees. I could go left and go into the oncoming traffic,
Mm.
or I could do what ended up happening, and that's freezing up and hitting him. So as you can see, out of all these options, nothing's looking good at all.
No.
I'm running about 55 miles an hour on the motorcycle, which is what the speed limit was. Because, like I said, this was a little highway, Highway 751, and that was the speed limit there.
Hmm.
So on these back streets like this, though, with it being, two lanes, you don't have a lane to turn into kind of thing. So they cut the trees back so you can see if any traffic's coming either way,
Right.
and Um, I make this point because on the police report, because I have no recollection. After this collision, I know nothing.
Yeah.
So on the police report, there were two witnesses, which were two cars that were right behind this Honda. And they both stated on that police report, both of them said they saw me coming. Say they don't know why he didn't.
Wow. Yeah.
So when I hear something like that, it made me angry because now I'm wondering, what were you doing?
Hmm.
What made you want to pull out in front of me? If it was a semi truck or 18 wheeler, as most people call it, yeah, I bet you wouldn't have pulled out in front of it because you would have went down the road with it.
Yeah.
I promise. You're not stopping that thing. And so it's one of those things that you kind of look back on and say, I'm glad I'm still here, of course. Definitely glad about that. But you say, at that time, oh man, I didn't want nothing to do with any of it. Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have my days, but I'm doing the best with what I have.
We're all human at the end of the day, right? So
Yeah.
of course you're going to have your days. That's part of any, I mean, I hate to say it's part of the process, whether it's a healing process or whatever process we're in, that's part of it. So no one is 100% good days. And if they
Yeah.
tell you that they are, they're lying because that's
Oh
not
yeah.
real.
Oh yeah.
And I think after an experience like that, an accident like that, the fact that you have more good days than bad,
Hmm.
I think that's a win. I think that's really commendable
Oh yeah.
because a lot of people stay in that place of anger or
Hmm.
depression or whatever their version of it is.
Oh yeah. No, definitely. You're exactly right. And this is also why I'm not just a motivational speaker, but I'm also a mentor
Mm,
and I'm also a resilience coach because I've been through it and I'm going through it.
mm,
So who better to learn from, hear experiences from, or to ask questions to than somebody who's been through this
mm.
or is currently going through this? Because if I go ask all my friends that's never been through anything, it doesn't matter who it, cousin, uncle, my grandmother, they've never been through this. So if I'm asking them all these questions about what I've been through that they've never experienced, guess what? They don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They just try to give you hope, is what they try to do. Now, me, I've been able to mentor guys. Like, I have this one guy that I'm mentoring, and he's really worried about, because he's getting ready to get married this year. So he's really worried about, getting married, having kids, not being able to see his kids grow up because he's losing his eyesight and things like that. I said, don't think of what you won't be able to do. Think about what you will be
Mm,
able to do.
mm,
And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, so with my nephews, man, when I see them, like I'm trying to interact with them first and foremost. When they come down the stairs and they're getting ready to go outside or they're getting ready to go out and see people, hey man, how you doing? Good morning. What you got on? Oh, I got on a t-shirt with, I said, oh, what's on your t-shirt? It's a shark.
mhm.
Oh, what color's the shark? Blue? Oh my God, dude. Is it from a TV show that you like? It is. That's awesome. Now I'm interacting. Now I'm learning and hearing what he's wearing. I don't have to see it. My mind can create that vision. Use every tool you have. And that's what I do my best to teach when I'm mentoring, when I'm coaching, when I'm just out here just living life. Because I'm learning lessons every day. I don't have this thing figured out. Not 100% anyway.
Yeah.
I'm pretty high, but it's not 100%, you know?
Still human. We're all
Exactly.
right. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, things change all the time.
Yeah.
So I have to also adapt. But as I'm adapting, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell you how I did it. Because if I'm holding back, it doesn't help you.
Mm,
Now I'm being selfish. And
yeah.
I don't like being selfish.
Yeah.
Unless it's over food, I'm sorry.
That's a whole other conversation we can have.
But yeah, so
So I'm so first off, thank you for sharing that. And I do truly appreciate it. And I very much appreciate what you're saying about mentoring and giving back and teaching from your experience. And in kind of the in that arena, I'm blanking on the right word, but you know, in that arena, I'm just going to say that. What were so I can only imagine how devastating the accident was and not remembering it and then recovering from that. What are or were some of the key things that you learned that stand out to you or that you continuously share with people when you are mentoring or talking about these things?
well, the one thing that I continue to share is, well, first off, I'm trying to make sure that we are staying connected
Mm,
because I can talk all day about what is best for me, but
yeah.
does it help you? That's where I'm trying to get to. Yeah, I'm talking about my accident, I lost my eyesight, I broke my spine, but if none of this happened to you, you're just like, here he goes talking all day. You know, it doesn't help. So my whole thought process, well, as soon as I get you on a mentor call, a coaching call, is to figure out you. I want to hear you. I'm not here to push me
Yeah.
because you should know about me already. It's
Yeah.
not to say that I'm like this big glorified person. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you came to me for a reason
Right.
because I know something that you want help with. So now I'm going to help you by listening to you first. And after you tell me what you need help with, my goal is to assist, not to not to take over, is to assist.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference.
Yep.
And so what I like to bring to people is the mindset shift. That's the first thing. That's the first thing I always bring to people is a mindset shift. You've got to shift your mindset in any situation, especially when it comes to overcoming any adversity or hardship. You got to shift your mindset because if your mind is still stuck in, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, I can't handle this, well, guess what? It's going to stay that way.
Mm.
I don't care what you gain in life, your mind is still over here. So it's focused on this, even though you have this.
Mm.
And so I tell people all the time, this is just one thing. Don't let your situation define who you are. You define who you are. So when they're putting all these different labels on you, I got all kind of labels. I got PTSD, I got blindness, I've got the spinal cord, I got the broken legs, everything you get, traumatic brain injury, short-term memory loss, anything you could think of that they try to label me with, I'm doing my best to beat it every day. If I feel like I'm regressing in memory, I'm going to try to go study something.
Mm.
I'm going to try to read something. I'm going to go recall something. Hey, I read something earlier today I need to tell you about. I just want you to hear me so I can know that I can still remember something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not to say that I'm wanting to talk all day long. It's just to make sure my mind still functions. I
Yeah.
can recall information. That's what I'm trying to do. And so that's what I want to do. I want to be able to not just talk about me. I could talk about me all day. I don't even like talking about me, to be honest. My story, okay, I could talk about that.
Yeah.
But me, not so much. I literally forget things that I have accomplished. It's not because I don't want to remember them. It's because I try to avoid knowing that much about myself
Mm.
because I don't want to boast about me.
Yeah.
Because I won't be able to turn it off. You know what I mean? So that's all I'm saying about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the mindset shift you're talking about, which I think is really important in any kind of, I'm gonna say crisis, right?
Yes.
But like I think that mindset shift is really important. I think the idea of, and I really resonate with the idea of not letting a label define you, right?
Yes.
And I'm also going to acknowledge that there are times where people attach to labels in a positive way and it can define them positively. And that's okay if it's a choice, right? If you're
Hmm.
choosing that because you're like, I am this thing, whatever the label is, great. However, what you're talking about, I just want to distinguish that. But what you're talking about is not that. It's not choosing. I really feel the label of traumatic brain injury defines me, and I'm going to lean into. That's not what you're talking about, right?
Right.
It's a shift. So
Yeah. I can give you an example to help you with that. So I
please,
said this the other day. I said, when I go talk to my nephews, I don't want them to think that I have a blind uncle named Kijuan. No,
mm-hmm.
no, no, no. It's the other way around. You have an uncle who is now blind.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
yep,
So that's how that should be. It should be, okay, this is attached to me,
yeah,
but it is not me.
yes. It's not your identity.
Exactly.
Yes. So I, you know, in service of that, and I'm going to, and if you're comfortable with this, if you're not, that's
Mhm.
totally fair. I am guessing that after your accident as part of your story, you didn't just wake up and say like, okay, well, those things are not me, and I'm gonna, positively, full of hope, march down this path in the way that I am now. That would be my guess post an accident like that. Probably not what happened. Assuming that is in fact True. You're smiling, so I'm gonna I'm gonna guess I might
I'm
be
smiling because if somebody is thinking that way, they're probably gassed up. Okay,
right.
they're loopy right now.
Right. So
There's no way,
that
you know.
exactly. So understanding that, what was your journey to your own mindset shift? How did that come about? Because you do, you work with other people to help them through their journey, but, and maybe you did have someone who was there for you specifically. Wonderful. I'd love to hear that. And if you didn't, how did you get to where you are now? How did you shift your mindset?
Yeah. So of course it took time. It definitely
Yes.
took time. It's May of this year will make 8 years since my accident. So everybody likes to say, well, it's one day at a time, one day at a time.
Hmm.
One day at a time is okay. Everybody lives one day at a time. I need you to take it one step at a time.
Mm.
And the difference is that there are steps that need to be had in order for you to get where you need to go. I can't take, if I want to go from right here to the kitchen, guess what I got to do? I got to take steps. Because if I don't, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be sitting right here
Yeah.
until I take those steps. So, what I'm getting at and what I'm trying to say is if you don't take the steps in order to become a better you or a more refined you, guess what you always be? The same you. You have to find some way to grow. I remember when I had to learn how to walk again. In order to get to the other end of that parallel bars,
Hmm.
I had to move.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to let me use the wheelchair. So I had to get up and walk down the parallel bars until I got to the other side.
Yeah.
So you have to take steps in life. Step number one, change your mindset. Step number two, figure out what you need to do. I look for every resource I possibly could. First off, I needed to get, back strong so that I could move around.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I was doing. Like that's what I mean by this. Like figure out what your steps are.
Yeah.
When you get in the car, the first thing you should do, check your mirrors, put on your seatbelt, you know, check your blind spots, check behind you, turn the car on, put it in gear. Let's go. Maybe you want to put your GPS on. Let's go.
Yeah.
There are steps though. You can't just jump in the car and you already gone. No, that's not how that works.
No.
Some things have to be done first.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important reminder. And I think that the first step is, as you're saying, is changing your mindset. It is, whether that starts with recognizing the mindset you're in to be able to change it, which is sometimes the hardest thing. Fully gonna, if you've dealt with any kind of challenge, personally, that can be the hardest thing, is just even recognizing that you are not in a productive or constructive mindset to start with,
Yeah.
and then taking it one step at a time. You're not trying to, there's a phrase that I'm can't remember right now, but you're not trying to do everything all at once, right? You're not trying
Right.
to, the end goal is this, so we're just going to be there. That's what's demotivating, and that's what keeps us stuck in our mindsets.
Hmm.
So I love the way you've broken it down. I think it's super important for anyone and any leader to hear that.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't get to that you want to make sure to share, or something you want to emphasize inside of what we did talk about? Because you have such a powerful story, and the work you're doing is incredible. So I want to give you the opportunity if you would like it.
I mean, honestly, I'm getting ready to host my own event here coming up in May, on May 3rd. And the theme of the event is Will to Overcome. And WILL is an acronym. So WILL stands for Win in Life's Lessons.
Hmm.
So at this conference, at least the event, I'll be teaching everyone that shows up how to win in life's lessons in order to overcome adversity.
Mm.
Because that's where it starts. Life teaches you lessons. If you're just going to take these lessons and just be like, oh, Lord, here something goes again, or I'm just going to keep blaming the lesson. No, learn from the lesson. Because if you forever just act like it didn't happen, you'll never learn from it. And it'll keep happening over and over and over. That's just like, and I hate to use this, but it's just like abusive relationships. If you keep allowing that cycle to go over and no, guess what'll never happen? You'll never have a great one because you're used to something that's negative. Learn from that lesson of abuse and find better.
Yeah.
So that's all I want to add.
Well, I appreciate that. And can people find out more about the conference you're hosting on your website? Is that where they would go? ameymotivation.com. Is that the place?
No, you can find it on my social media for sure. So all of my
Okay.
social media handles,
Which
whether
will
it's,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, I was going to say they'll all be linked in the show notes for the
Yeah,
record.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter, all you have to do is search my first and last name, which is Kijuan Amey, Kijuan Amey, and you'll find me. I've posted the event up there. It's on eventbrite.com and it's titled Will to Overcome. So, yeah.
Perfect. We will have all of that linked up for everyone who is listening. And thank you so much for chatting with me today and taking the time. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. And I hope your event is a raging success.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me today on the Leading Through Crisis podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a minute to rate and review us on your podcast app. If you're interested in learning more about any of our guests, you can find us online at www.leadingthroughcrisis.ca.